Hello everyone. So for this course I'm going to present my research on the sea and identity formation in the Palestinian gathering of Jal al-Bahr, which is located in Tyre. I'm going to call it Sur خلاص, in southern Lebanon. I will start by providing a description of the space that Jal al-Bahr occupies in conjunction with a particular focus on its surrounding expanses, both the sea and the Lebanese side. Then I will employ the discourse analysis as a method to translate the meetings and interactions I've experienced when doing my research into preliminary findings. To complement this method of analysis, I will also bring into play my own observations and personal views. So I'll first start by describing Jal al-Bahr as the space. To illustrate it, one first needs to have the Bahr itself, which is the sea in the background, home for around 250 families. Jal al-Bahr gathering lies a few meters from the sea on the Tyre coast with no breakwater nor barrier to protect it. Sometimes these meters don't even exist, with some of the houses already on the touch point with every wave. These houses are now destroyed and uninhabited. On the opposite side, the gathering is bordered by a sea road that constitutes its main refugee-host interface, which is as is reflected by the deadly highway, is full of dangers. The one-story buildings, or rather cottages, that compose Jal al-Bahr gathering all have the same shape: corrugated zinc roofs fixed with either pumice stones or masonry blocks, or even with water tanks. Worn-down walls that are often supported by once again corrugated zinc as building materials, i.e. cement, are prohibited. One or two windows that decorate the cubic houses that cannot accommodate more than 3 small rooms at the most. Tiny alleyways with sandy ground allow for only one person's movement between the houses. Reaching the beach, one would realize the nakedness of the houses in the face of the sea. No jetties are allowed to be built in the residence protection. Throughout my company with one family's journey to identity exploration, I aim to address the following research questions. How does the sea contribute to the formation of one's identity? How is this identity formation affected by one's own subjectivity? And how does the sea affect one's individual identity formation, and how the latter affects one's perception of the sea? To answer these questions, I first draw on the existing literature to elaborate the notion of center of gravity as introduced by Dr. Sari Hanafi, we all know him, in his book Flexible Citizenship and the Inflexible Nation State. In his book, he defined the center of gravity as one that characterizes the communitarian ties of diasporic Palestinians inside of each nation-state in the diaspora, rather than with Palestinian villages and families inside Palestine. Using the same approach, I reflect on Jal al-Bahr's self-rule and governance that is to a great extent independent of the political factions and UNRWA or any other humanitarian organizations for that matter. In this slide, I deduce, as per my findings below, that the gap in the social and economic support in the gathering is filled by its residents, and this led to the establishment of social networks that counter the threats and contingencies that face the residents due to deficiencies in their legal provisions. Accordingly, the privation and abandonment of Jal al-Bahr have contributed to the formation of a collective identity advanced by friendly and neighborly relations and a sense of common destiny. And that is what I mean by Jal al-Bahr's center of gravity. It is these social ties that were formed and that have found a fertile ground for them in Jal al-Bahr where they could grow and counter deprivation. From another standpoint, and employing Diana Allen's argument, which considers that Palestinian refugee scholarship has underestimated the configuration of new identities and the conflicting loyalties and attachments that have emerged over the years of exile among the Palestinian refugees. I argue that Jal al-Bahr has succeeded in maneuvering its way towards paving an ever-changing definition of identity. This gathering, having been long abandoned, was always on the margins of any scholarly or humanitarian scrutiny, intending to explore its constituents, which allowed the residents to accept and embrace new initiatives taken by its youth. Here I will introduce my main characters, whom I shall call Imad. What follows is divided mainly into 2 parts. First, I will narrate and conceptualize the story of 2 generations of the family of Imad, which his father and Imad. Secondly, I will tackle the commonalities and connections that Jal al-Bahr has developed with its surrounding, and then try to trace these foundations of such connections. The 2 generations at hand here are that of the armed resistance, which is the generation of Imad's father, and the generation of Imad himself, which is the generation that came after this Palestinian armed resistance. During my interviews with Imad and his father, the term Thawra was ubiquitous. The father had abandoned his family for more than 8 years in pursuit of the Thawra. For him, Thawra surpassed family in its importance, since the former serves an entire population, while the latter serves only family members. He never thought that leaving his children behind was a mistake. It was a sacrifice that he and many of his comrades had to make in service of their cause, of which his children would eventually reap the fruits. The term for the father designated strength and commitment, the term Thawra I mean, to always be better, and this was reflected in his upbringing of his children. The old man loved the sea and as a result insisted that all his children needed to love it as well, and most importantly, they needed to learn how to swim. In fact, he wanted them to be the best swimmers in Sur. He used to drown them on purpose just to make his point that only strong and maybe aggressive people would make it through life. He had had many occupations in his life. He worked as a fisherman, as a diver in search of sponge in the sea, as a farmer, and of course as a Thawraji. His strict principles are evident in the trajectory he chose for his life when he determinedly decided to leave his children with no one to support them, and when he applied the strictness in the sea when teaching his kids how to swim. When I asked Imad if his father was harsh in any other matter, for example education and school grades, his response was negative. Hence, the father's main concerns were Thawra and the sea. The sea was the perfect platform to apply the spirit of the Thawra as perceived by Imad's father, and both were tightly intertwined. Despite the tough appearance and attitude by the father, the latter was vulnerable in his own way. During his years in the battlefields away from home, the father hadn't forsaken the sea. His places of residence were always chosen carefully to overlook the sea. For example, he chose to live in Nahr al-Barid when he was in Tripoli, instead of Badawi because Nahr al-Barid is by the sea, and when in Beirut he chose to live in Uza'i and Bir Hassan. What can this tell us? Was he trying to preserve a predefined identity or character by always associating himself with the sea? Was he driven by fear of change at times of battles for the unknown? Why did he choose the sea rather than his family? I reasoned that family rendered him somewhat exposed. It was a liability and a burden for him. At times of uncertainty during a war that aims to recapture land and thus recover an entire population's identity and raison d'etre, the powerful and independency that could support and provide for Imad's father, and not the other way around, might have seemed like the safest and thus the most reliable option. This exhaustive account of the father leads us to analyze how the son Imad perceives the sea. In contrast to his father, Imad believes Thawra should not and could no longer depend on guns and force. It is only through education and knowledge that Thawra can reach its desired ends. For Imad, Thawra is a noble affair if handled wisely. Family should be in harmony with revolution, and the two must never be separated. He inherited his father's love to the sea, but this love adopted different features. Imad's love is serene and rewarding, while his father regards the sea as both powerful and dangerous, and this was evident when the latter used the sea space as a means to frighten people away. So here the story goes that back in the days when PLO was the ultimate authority in the south, the father forbade many Lebanese people from going into the sea because he simply did not like them. This demonstrates that the image of the sea reflected by the father was that of dominance, possession, and strength, while that mirrored by the son was conciliation, kindness, and peaceful resilience. Here I argue that the difference can be attributed to specific circumstances that must have shaped these perceptions. In fact, in the father's days, the sea was the main source of income where only competent fishermen or divers were to make use of the sea's resources. Also, with the PLO's rise to power, domination and possession seemed only natural consequences for some Palestinians like Imad's father. However, in Imad's times, with fishing in the sea prohibited for Palestinians by the Amal movement, with the difficult economic situations where fishing could no longer provide for the family, and with losing the father for most of his childhood and thus consequently losing his backup whenever he wanted someone to defend him, for example, all these factors have furthered Imad's quest towards a more peaceful interaction with the sea. Moreover, it was because of the father's hot temper and endless disputes with his surrounding that Imad has determined to adopt a more tranquil approach to life. For him, seashore is a space for social interaction rather than exclusion, and he transforms his convictions into reality by organizing social gatherings for all youth in Jalal Bahr as a means to bring people together and to unite them. Although contrasts still stand between Imad and his father, however, they both agree on their love to the sea. It is this intimate relationship articulated by this family that is overlooked by the media whenever reporting on Jalal Bahr. This observation guides me to single out one's individual identity formation through which sea is comprehended. In this case, I employ the term of Anthropocene, introduced by Dr. Nicholas last semester. So Anthropocene, you guys know, it's the era where the humans still control the nature. So this term is advanced by media discourses in their depiction of the sea as a monster that threatens the lives of Jalal Bahr residents. For media and people not living near the sea, such as hatta me, the latter seems like a boogeyman that should be avoided, while for Isa and his father, who have long coexisted and interacted with the sea, this perception did not apply. That is to say that the furious tone targeting the sea in particular in media reports that tackles the destruction of parts of Jalal Bahr houses holds within it an emotional invitation to end the nature. Although such reports often hold authorities responsible for their inaction, the blame is regularly put on the sea and its rage, with some referring to it as the widow maker. Such arguments were absent from my participants' discourse, however. On the contrary, Imad, who lost his own house the night before his wedding when a wave lashed the house's walls and destroyed them, he stated that the sea's rage is normal and resembles the human outrage, and people needed to learn how to coexist with it instead of attempting to subject it to their human will. In exploration of the connections that Jalal Bahr has developed with its Lebanese host, I realized that in my interviews, Christians of Tir and Amal movement were the only Lebanese counterparts always brought up in the conversation. Christians of Sur are the men of the sea. They resemble Jalal Bahr residents in their lifestyles, and for this reason, they were frequently mentioned. But this was no coincidence. This asserts the marine nature of life at Jalal Bahr, since Christians in Sur developed an especially intimate connection to the sea. Whether as fishermen or divers in search of sponge, Palestinians have always relied on Christians for fishing opportunities. Christian fishermen would allow Palestinians on board as work companions and would split the income of the day between the two. In addition, Palestinians in Jalal Bahr compete with Christians in local swimming contests. In a different manner, however, Amal movement comes to play as an indication of violence, conflict, supremacy, and possession that Jalal Bahr has gone through, and that characterizes particularly Imad's father personality. In my research, I realized how limited interviews can be. They express only the interviewee's opinion and cannot be generalized except on the interviewee alone. The transition from specific to general was especially challenging, as I felt it unethical to apply my findings on all residents, and most importantly, on voiceless actors such as the sea. I wish I was able to give more voice to the sea to ask it how disturbed it was or not by the residents of Jalal Bahr who admired it. But all I came to sense was a heartless sea with no exception nor mercy for the impoverished refugees. I was fascinated by the love Imad and his father had for the sea, although it was hard for me to digest it as I could not tolerate their desperate conditions. However, I came to realize that these people do not even bother comparing themselves to the outside world. They live right across a hotel, a luxurious residential compound owned by the Sahik family, which is the new real estate titan in Sur, and they regularly receive eviction notices from the Baladiya, the municipality. But yet, they feel they are in a unique position due to these interpersonal connections they have built between each other and due to these exclusive associations they established with the sea. In conclusion, I'm just going to add a brief analysis, intervention-observations about my experience doing research in Jalal Bahr. So at first I thought it would be easier for me, since I am a Palestinian, to enter this understudied area of Jalal Bahr. However, I realized that this was not the case. I was met with the same suspicious feelings that I had expected to avoid. Imad's father even told me once that he suspects I work for the Israeli intelligence, and he was serious about it. He, as opposed to his son, was still doubtful when it comes to sharing information about the Palestinians' life in the gathering for research purposes. Jal al-Bahr, in my opinion, is a unique case. While still having followed the same trajectory of the camp, which had gone through misery first, then thawra, then misery. The gathering, however, has broached a new state, unlike the camp where it turned into a site for social gatherings and youth initiatives. So basically, youth there have taken lead of things. Also, as a limitation, I believe my choice of Imad could, if this research is taken further, it could be considered as a constraint since Imad is an activist, so his perception, he's a Palestinian activist, so his perceptions were, in my opinion, quite optimistic and ambitious compared to other potential participants. Throughout the research, failing to justify the reasons for my research remained problematic for me, as I found it very unethical to keep asking the participants to share information with me while I could not guarantee anything in return, and I couldn't even guarantee that this research would be read by people.